Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Co-op Podcast, episode 177. I'm your host, Richard Billy Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
Going good. Having a good weekend so far. I hope you guys are good.
Absolutely. We're also joined by Mr. Jake James Lugo. How's it going, Mr. Lugo?
I'm doing good, Rich. A lot of stuff to get into today on this show.
Yes, most certainly. And we're also joined by Mr. Max Muller. How's it going, Max?
It's going pretty good. Happy to be back as always.
Yes, absolutely. So as Mr. Lugo already mentioned, there are a lot of topics to get into, but of course, we're going to talk about what we have been playing because I know a lot of us have been playing a lot of games. So how about you go first, Max? Let us know what you've been playing.
Well, let's see. I've been playing Tales of the Borderlands, actually, because I've been home for the past few days because I have to watch my dog, and I only have my MacBook on me. And I was looking through the games I've been playing, and I couldn't play Final Fantasy because they don't have a Mac version of it. They just released the Stardew Valley patch, but I wasn't ready to get into that. So I started Tales from the Borderlands, and I was instantly hooked. I'm usually not a big Telltale Games fan. I played like The Walking Dead Season 1, and to me it was just okay. I thought the story was good, but everything else was kind of needed to be worked on. But Tales from the Borderlands has me hooked from like instantly, and I'm not even the biggest fan of the Borderlands universe either. The characters that they created are brilliant. They're very deep, and I can just kind of make them, mold them to my own will, and it's really interesting. And there's the two main protagonists you play through. And the stories are told different perspectives, and then you always find them connecting later on. A cool way to tell a story in a game, and it makes me feel very involved. And other than that, I haven't been playing many other games, sadly, because I've been home most of the week. But I've had a lot of time for writing, so that's good.
That's understood. I just was going to make a comment that I also am not a huge Borderlands fan, but yeah, the Borderlands Telltale game is that's fantastic.
It's
what I've
hilarious.
played. Oh yeah, absolutely. You know what I've played so far. I will confess I did not finish it yet. There have been too many other games in the backlog, but I definitely will be going back to that soon. But Telltale does a great job on games, and we are going to discuss another game that just dropped. That man, the game is fantastic, but we'll get into that. But how about you, Gary? What have you been playing?
Of course, I've been playing Overwatch. That's, the majority of what I've been playing. But I also played another Telltale game, which I guess is the game you were referring to, and that's Batman Episode 2, which came out this week. I really enjoyed the episode. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't played it yet, but a lot happens. But I will say, like, ultimately, compared to the first episode, it felt like things progressed really quickly in this episode. Like, and there were parts of it that felt like a bit rushed. But overall, the decisions you get to make and the consequences, I would say that was very well done. So definitely an interesting episode, and I urge everyone to check that out if Batman is something that you're into. But besides that, I still haven't started Deus Ex, man. I've been meaning to. It's just like I want to set out a few hours of my time where I can get into it, but like I just never have a few hours at a time to spare, which is why I play stuff like Overwatch, because it's it's easy to just play a couple matches and then get off and carry on with your day, basically. But yeah, that's it. That's it, really.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm, we probably may have to have a spoiler cast for the Batman show at some point, because yeah, what you said is some interesting stuff. We definitely gonna have to talk about that further though, because I have a couple things I want to say about that. But Mr. Lugo, what have you been playing?
Yeah, I've been busy playing a lot of big games. Like Gary, I've been playing Batman. I played episode 2. I think episode 2 is a little bit better than episode 1. As far as like the amount of events that happen, some of the stuff that goes down, and as well as also the way that the plot unfolds. I think that was pretty well done. Shocking ending, depending on how you play it. and such. I'm with you on that one. I definitely want to do a spoiler cast or a Patreon exclusive episode at one point about Batman, because I know that everybody's going to want to know our opinions and like how exactly we played the game, you know, with each of our own individual save files and stuff. I would love to get into that conversation at some point. But overall, Batman episode 2, very good so far. I'm really hyped up to see episode 3, see where this is going to go, because we only got about 3 more episodes left in a Batman Telltale series. So that's going to be kind of cool. Now, the other game I've been playing that I've been talking about a little bit on social media, I've actually been meaning to write an editorial about it, but there's a couple of reasons why I'm going to get into now about why it hasn't happened yet. My original plan was to have that done prior to this episode of the co-op, but I've been playing Destiny Rise of Iron. Now, Destiny Rise of Iron, I've been playing it for, I want to say, close to about a week. And the reason why I've been taking so long to do this stuff is not only I wanted to be thorough and doing all the story-based content related to the Rise of Iron, DLC, and all the extra little content here and there, but also I've been trying to grind up to do the raid. The raid is a little bit of a pain in the butt because you have to be light level, I think it's 360 or 370, to be competent in the raid. And you need about 6 people in total on your fire team in order to get it done. I know that a lot of people have been talking about it on social media here and there, saying that it's very challenging, but it's a very fun raid. I felt like, you know, at some point before I get into like my overall clear-cut, decisive opinions about it, I should experience it at least once. But here's the problem, though. And much like all the other Destiny expansions, and I think it's just the nature of the game, it's the grind that slows you down. Because in order to get up to that 360 light level or that 370 light level, in order to be up to that point where you could actually contribute to everything else and not be carried, you have to grind through the strikes. You have to do all the previous story-based DLC. You have to do all the extra missions that you get from talking to the different people in the new social area, which is the Iron Temple, which looks cool, which, by the way, Bungie and Activision, you guys are a bunch of bastards for making us climb up that mountain. That was the worst aspect, but it was still the most satisfying by the time you were done. But the worst aspect to go through Rise of Iron, it was not fun whatsoever.
Wait, you gotta climb a mountain?
Absolutely hated it. Okay, so check this out, right? I actually did this with a friend of ours, Antoine Perman, Black Bible from Gamer for Nation. What you have to do is you have to climb the mountain that's in the social area of the new Rise of Iron DLC. It's called the Iron Temple, and you go there and you see this giant mountain that's right below. That's right above this actual temple that you go into normally to get all the missions and stuff. But what you could do is you could go to the side of like a wall that's like right next to the main area and actually start climbing the mountain, like start jumping up and platforming from different area to area to get all the way to the tip top of this mountain. And at the very top, okay, well, first off, halfway, you get one of the medallions that you're supposed to collect. There's like this little extra subquest that you get that's related to the end game content. And then further up the mountain towards the very top, there's these little kind of like Siva clusters that you have to collect as part of like all the main end game content to the Rise of Iron DLC. But the problem is you have to climb up this entire mountain and do these ridiculously annoying and like aggravating platforming challenges in order to get up there. And once you get up there, it took me more than an hour, dude. I was with Antoine, and he did it twice, which is insane because the second time he did it with me, and he did it there because we were just doing it for the fun of it. And it just took me such a long time just to climb up the entire mountain because the platforming, the way it works out is that some of the platforms protrude out a little bit next to these rocks that are on the side of the mountain. So as you're trying to make these jumps and stuff, sometimes when you jump, the rocks and the way that the mesh does the collision detection with your character pushes you out and actually makes you slide out away from the mountain, so you fall down to your death, and then you get knocked all the way back down to the bottom of the mountain. So it does have checkpoints, like when you die or like if you fall off and stuff, it actually puts you back in like certain little areas that if you reach, you could actually start from that point. But there were some instances where I got knocked all the way down to the bottom of the mountain and had to do it all over again. So it took me a very long time to get it done, but I did get it done, and it was kind of cool because I posted up a picture of it on Twitter, and everybody could see from the top of the mountain where I was at, and it was one of those things I do not want to do again. Like it's cool, it's interesting, it's a fun moment when you're with friends doing it, but I would prefer that if the next Destiny DLC comes out, they would not have a challenge like that. I would rather take that hour that I spent doing that annoying and aggravating challenge and put it towards doing other missions that are like strikes that are regular story-based or side story-based missions, so I can get different equipment and other stuff. I felt that would have been better and much more suited to the time spent at the time, and also that I'm also putting into Destiny like that. But getting to round it out, to go back to my main point, that's the reason why it's been taking so long to actually really comment to put something up on the site about Rise of Iron, because I want to make sure that I cover all my bases. But I'm getting to that point where I was just like, you know what? I think I have a thorough understanding of like how good Rise of Iron is. And to be honest with you, I think it's great. Like the story-based content, I thought was very cool, very cinematic, very eventful. It's short compared to the other DLCs, but it's still just as fun when you get into the main story content and the main side missions and stuff. Besides that, to kind of wrap up what I've been playing, I've actually been playing Touhou Scarlet, I think it's called Scarlet Witch or Scarlet Fantasy from Xseed. It's Scarlet Curiosity, I'm sorry. Touhou Scarlet Curiosity on PS4. I'm going to be posting up a review of that tomorrow on thecoalition.com. It's going to be a PS4 game. It's supposed to be like a shmup / dungeon crawler. They're in the same vein as like Diablo or Marvel Ultimate Alliance and stuff. Not as good from what I played so far, but I'll have my full thoughts on that in the full review when it goes up tomorrow. So definitely look forward to that.
Sounds good. Yeah, you've been playing a lot of stuff. And allow me to say this right now. I've been playing a lot of stuff as well. Since you've already addressed it, I'm going to jump into it right now. Destiny. I actually purchased Destiny, The Rise of Iron, a couple days ago. I figured, you know, I'm level 38. I can get to 40 quick, and I can go ahead and start that. The grind fest got to me. I'm at like almost a 40 right now. You know, maybe if I do maybe a couple more strike missions, I'll get there. But I know enough to know now that, you know, I think that Destiny, I'm pretty much done with Destiny. I think when Destiny 2 comes out, I probably will not be picking it up because, I'm not a fan of the grind fest to get to that point. I did finish the Taken King as a requirement to try and get to that level. I enjoyed the Taken King. I enjoyed the fact that it took a long time to beat the boss because it was only me. I didn't have any other friends I was playing with. But
that's the worst way to play that game. That's the absolute worst way to play Destiny.
I know you're right about that. I mean, obviously, yeah, like you said before, if you have friends that you're playing with, this probably makes it a little bit better. But I also have to agree with the platforming because a couple of those missions that I skipped over initially, I believe there was one where you have to set beacons. And that requires jumping and double jumping and all this other stuff to get to certain areas. That right there was just a complete turnoff for me because it's like you get frustrated trying to do that stuff over and over again. So with that said, you know, eventually maybe I'll try out Rise of Iron. I did hear that the story was short, like you said, from a couple other people as well. But you know, I've already purchased it, so I am going to try it and see how it is. But as far as I'm concerned, I know enough now to know if Activision doesn't change some things, I definitely won't be picking up Destiny 2 whenever it does come out. Because it's just that the nonstop grinding, all this other stuff, it's absolutely ridiculous. But with that said, for those that are fans of it, definitely, you know, if you've probably already picked up the DLC, you're probably enjoying it. So I don't have to tell you, you know, what you're actually playing or whether or not it was a good investment. You would know that by now. But with that said, it isn't for everybody. I've also did play Batman Episode 2, as I've already mentioned earlier. I think we definitely will have to do a spoiler cast for it because I have to agree 100% with what Mr. Lugo said. Episode was definitely better than the first one. A lot of stuff did happen. Some stuff I wasn't expecting to happen that quick. And then, of course, the shocking ending, yes, depending on what choice you made. I really have to give Telltale credit for, you know, approaching this series a different way in the sense of the whole story that they're coming from of who is, you know, that really questions the history behind Batman, how he got started. I mean, you really need to play this game. If you are a Batman fan, it's an absolute must play. I mean, you can wait for the entire season to come out. I know that the actual physical discs have already been sold. They're already out in stores now. Only 2 episodes available, but I would say any person that is a fan of Batman in any way, shape, or form, you need to play this game. There is no maybe play it. You have to play this game. Because I'll be very curious to know what you think as well. But great game so far. We will talk about it at some point when we do a dedicated spoiler cast. I feel like you really have to do that to really get into the nitty-gritty of everything that's going on with the game. I've also been playing NBA 2K17, a fantastic game overall. I'm actually going to be doing a write-up on that, so look out for that on the site soon. And last but certainly not least, I reviewed Forza Horizon 3 earlier this week. I'd like to give a shout out to Playground Games. I know that they definitely retweeted the review, followed me. Also want to give a shout out to Torrance Davis because Aaron Greenberg saw the review and left a comment on it as well. So, I mean, I'm glad that the review got some attention. In any way, no way, shape, or form, I was very honest about what I felt about the game because from playing the other Forza Horizon games, Forza Horizon 2, a fantastic game. And I did say at the time when that came out, that was probably the best racing game on the Xbox One. But they elevated that because they were building upon what they did. You know, if I could go back and alter some of the previous scores that I gave the game, I maybe would lower it a bit, but I would not in any way change the score of the current game because it really is the evolution of everything that they've been doing. You know, they introduced a little bit of weather dynamics in Forza Horizon 2, but they went all out in Forza Horizon 3, you know, with the rain and the puddles and pretty much everything that I mentioned in that review. It's a complete evolution of what they've been building towards. So it really is a game that any and every racing game fan should play. Absolutely no doubt about that. And as I said in the review, and I stand by the word, this is the best racing game so far this generation. I did try Drive Club. Drive Club looks fantastic. Project Cars, another game, looks great. But in my opinion, so far, in terms of what it offers, and the fact that Forza has more customization stuff in it before you are the Forza Horizon boss, instead of just being a unnamed, unknown driver. I mean, there's so much about this game that it really any racing game fan would want to play it. Plus, they have a really cool drone mode, which allows you to look at the map and pretty much look at the whole area without actually driving the car. So, I mean, all of this stuff in the game, it really is a game that I think everybody should pick up if they are remotely interested in it. And again, absolutely, I can't recommend it highly enough. I'll be very interested to see what happens with Drive Club VR, what happens with Gran Turismo when these games finally do come out. But so far, I have to say this is the best game that I've played, just from the amount of content, from the customization, from pretty much everything. And like I said, definitely pick it up if you're interested in it. Again, that pretty much is a gist of what we've been playing this week. As I said, you know, we've been playing a lot of games. We're really only just getting into the nitty gritty because there's a lot of more games to still come. So we'll definitely have more to say next week about what else we've been playing. So stay tuned for that. So let's go ahead and let's jump right into the main topics because there's quite a bit to discuss. First and foremost, we're going to talk about some controversy going on with Street Fighter V. Gary, I'm going to allow you to dive further into this topic because I believe that you picked up the PC version of Street Fighter V. So let us know what is going on with Capcom in this whole situation with the virus.
Yeah, so basically what it is they were trying to, you know, cut down on hacking and stuff, like, because obviously with PC gaming, you know, sometimes you get issues where people try and hack the game to win matches or whatever the case may be. So Capcom decided that the best way to, you know, cut down on these hackers is to actually issue an update that makes your computer vulnerable to viruses. So they basically created like a backdoor kind of virus to your, well, not virus, but like a backdoor hole to entry point into your system 32 and stuff. And you know that makes your computer very vulnerable because it's trying to basically it basically messes with, you know, a lot of the back end, the deep rooted stuff in the system. And once people caught wind of that, obviously there are a lot of like complaints directed at Capcom, and they actually issued a patch to roll back that previous update, which is the right thing to do, of course. But you know, at this point in time, I'm just completely fed up with Capcom because every time I load up Steam, there's an update for the game. It's usually like 5 to 10 gigs or something like that. And, you know, I'm just tired of the fact that, you know, this game should have been completed when it first came out. Like, and they're still trying to fix things and still adding content to the game. And, you know, I'm not playing it anymore. So I just decided to uninstall it after hearing all that news about, you know, the vulnerability that update caused. So, yeah, I mean, if you own a PC, just be careful, you know, just watch out, because a lot of people had issues with that update as well. Like, they couldn't actually access the game because their virus prevention programs and stuff wouldn't let them start the game up and stuff like that. So it created a lot of chaos with people, you know, surrounding that update. So, you know, if you do have the game on PC, I would just, you know, be careful, make sure you understand, you know, what went down, do some reading on, you know, what exactly happened, and just see if your computer is affected in any way. But make sure you have a good virus protection as well on your computer. But yeah, just overall, I feel like Capcom handled this whole game very badly from start to finish. Like, I actually wanted to like this game. Like, when it first came out, I actually supported it. You know, I bought it, I played it. I enjoyed it somewhat, even though the story mode wasn't there at, you know, for right away at launch. I still supported it. I was willing to wait for it and everything like that. But they just lost me, man. Like, through all this waiting and all these updates that you got to download and stuff. Like, I just got tired of it all. So yeah, I uninstalled it, and I won't be going back to the game, unfortunately.
All right, let me just go ahead and say I do have some quick thoughts. I can agree that they've had issues with this game since they launched it, you know, and it didn't have all the content it needed to have. I however have a bit of a different perspective, because you see, I didn't pick up this game when it launched. I waited until they released the story content, and then I said, okay, well, I guess I got to play it now. And I thought that the story mode was pretty decent. I still think they should have waited to release this game, not really worry about the tournament scene and try to get it done just to have it on the tournament scene. I think they should have took their time to make this game the correct way and have all the content intact and then released it. But for what it's worth, I do think that the story mode was worth waiting for. It was enjoyable from what I played, but again, I didn't pick it up on day one, so I probably would be frustrated if I also picked it up on day one for that very reason. But getting back to the whole virus situation, that was not a good way for them to try to handle this situation. They probably could have done some other things. I'm not an expert in the field, so I can't really say what they should have done. I mean, I'm glad that they are trying to fix the issue, but you know, really should have thought this whole process through before they took that particular approach to try to deal with it. So how about you, JJ and Max? Do you guys have any thoughts on this particular topic?
You want to go first, Max? Because mine might be a little bit long.
Yeah, I just have a few quick things to say. I've never really been into the Street Fighter series, but from what I've heard, Street Fighter V is the tightest, if not one of the best feeling games in the series. And I just think it's a really big shame that they handled this terribly from the start, because one of my roommates, he is a massive Street Fighter fan, and he was so excited for the game. And then once it came out, once he heard about like half the game not being there and everything, he was like, yeah, I'll wait a few months and then get it. And after everything that's happened, he just ended up not getting it. And I can't imagine the amount of people that just haven't bought it either because of the way Capcom has been handling this. And it's a shame, because I know it's a popular series. And from what I've heard, people are just staying with Street Fighter 4. And that one's on the previous gen. So we can't even have a good current gen Street Fighter game, which is a big shame for all the fans. But I guess there's not much we can do about that.
All right, you guys might want to sit down for this one, because you guys, you, Rich, Gary specifically, not so much, I don't think you so much, Max, but what is it? You guys know my history with Capcom and Street Fighter, just in general. Like, I'm a very hardcore Street Fighter fan. I'm not a hardcore Street Fighter tournament player. I find a very distinct difference between the two, but it doesn't really undermine me as like a fan of the series. I've been a fan of Street Fighter for a very long time. You guys know that personally when I've talked to you about the series. With Street Fighter V specifically, I've been there since the beginning. I played this at E3 that first year when it was available. I played the demos. I played all this stuff. I saw the game as it grew. I wrote previews on the game. So I've stuck with this for a very long time. The one thing I will say, and to tie this together with, you know, the install virus backdoor thing for PC users and stuff, is that everything about Street Fighter V has been kind of mishandled poorly, or has been given a very bad perception to everybody in general. The reason why I say that is this, and I kind of disagree with the thing that, Max, you were saying before, that your friend was saying that it was, or you heard that it's the most tightest feeling game in the series. The reason why I disagree with that is because something that actually came out about it, both competitively wise and also for the casual guys, there's a huge delay between the time that you actually input your controls, or like input like a button press or something, and when it actually appears on the screen. It's actually an 8-frame delay, which is the worst thing in the entire series. Like, compared to like something like Third Strike, which at first, when it first came out, I think it was just Street Fighter 3, the new generation, it was the first version of it. It had a little bit of the delay, but in later versions of that game, that was actually fixed up and that was corrected. In this one, it seems to be a thing that's lingered around for a very long time. But my point is in mentioning that, you know, again, because I know I'm going off topic, there's been a lot of mismanaging of this, you know, the perception of this game. There's been like a lot of missteps with how Capcom has kind of reacted and kind of answered to a lot of the fan base, you know, that have been looking forward to Street Fighter V, or just have been in with Street Fighter V for quite a while. I think it was a terrible mistake for them to actually cater more to the hardcore tournament enthusiasts than the actual players of Street Fighter, because players is a very general term. It's not just the tournament guys that go out there trying to win money when they're trying to compete for top 16 or top 32 in like Evo or something. When I say players, I'm talking about guys like me that get Street Fighter and want to play with their friends, or just want to get it, play online, or just get it just to play on themselves because they want to experience that story content, or just all this other multimedia stuff related to Street Fighter. I felt that the way that Capcom presented this game when it released, and the way that's handled even the updates up to this point, has shut that type of player out, which is a huge detriment. Because remember, when Street Fighter 4 came out, the vanilla Street Fighter 4, the original version of that game came out, it was trying to be more appealing to everybody. That was why Street Fighter 4 was such a huge success. When Street Fighter 4 came out, when Super Street Fighter 4 came out, Super Street Fighter 4, was it Arcade Edition came out, all these different versions of it were like that, was because it was so open to everybody, despite being a very deep game for the competitive scene like that. And I just felt, you know, for whatever reason, Capcom decided to kind of cater more to the opposite end of that. And really, a lot of it had to do with just getting it out for the tournament season, like the actual pro circuit season. It was a lot of weird stuff, and there was a lot of, you know, he said, she said stuff of why this was done and whatnot. But this thing that I see about the backdoor stuff with the PC, and just like, there's so many other games that come out on PC that don't have this problem. I can't understand why Capcom this would be an issue with them. And already an environment, and already when they have a perception where there's so many things and so many stuff being wrong about this game, the way that the characters are rolled out, the way that, you know, to me, the story DLC, I disagree with you, Rich, that the story content for this game, the updates and the DLC, have been very meager and have been very kind of, you know, not that great. It was first where you play I think it's like 4 matches in the original thing before the update, and then after that you get these cutscenes, and they all kind of just don't make sense. They're kind of broken a little bit. They're very kind of like, you know, here and there. They're just kind of like whatever. Granted, in the past, fighting games, specifically Street Fighter, have had things kind of like this that have never really kind of made sense in the overall sense of, like, you know, the package. But you always felt like you were getting a complete game back then. You know, because obviously the design philosophy for a lot of the previous Street Fighter games and other fighting games before this day and age, or before this console generation, was radically different. What I will say, though, is this. I'm hoping that we do obviously get a new Street Fighter, like Street Fighter 6 like that, because that they were very clear about not having any more updated versions of Street Fighter 5 other than the updates they're going to release like on PSN and Xbox Live and stuff. What I do hope is that they start now, Capcom starts to switch up their philosophy and kind of go back to catering to like what they did with Street Fighter 4, but borrowing a lot more from guys like NetherRealm Studios, you know, borrowing from guys like what SNK did with King of Fighters 14. I'll tell you right now, from the very launch, you know, comparing Street Fighter 5 to King of Fighters 14, King of Fighters 14 is the better game overall as a package. The reason why is that while it's not as graphically pleasing to the eye as Street Fighter 5 is, because Street Fighter 5 looks gorgeous and stuff, the amount of content that's there and the substance and the how deep the actual game is and the fighting, both competitive-wise and casual-wise, King of Fighters 14 is a much more better handled game with a much more a smaller budget compared to Street Fighter 5 like that. Again, that's just a comparison. That's just my opinion on the matter. But overall, this whole ordeal with the PC version of the game is just another icing on the cake with everything that's wrong with Street Fighter 5. It's just such a disappointment. I'm not as aggravated or upset like other people have, despite my history with this game over time. I'm just very disappointed in it. And it's just like I have no desire to go back to play Street Fighter 5 whatsoever. I've played it a few times on my PlayStation 4, and I've gone online and stuff like that. I found problems and issues with the online infrastructure. Again, once I was done with the single player content, I ran through the story in like less than an hour with most of the characters. There's a lot of characters in there. There's like 3 or 4 fights per person. It really didn't take that long. And then I had no desire to go back to play it again.
All right. I like to make a quick comment. Yeah, I would like to hope that Capcom has learned their lessons from how all of this went, launching the game at full price, knowing that it didn't have all the content in there, and just telling people, well, yeah, the content is coming later. I hope they do better next time, but I think they will do better next time because Street Fighter 6 will not just be on PlayStation. It probably will be on Xbox One also. No doubt about it, they made some errors. I just want to say, I haven't played King of Fighters. I really don't know if I will play it in the future. But in my personal opinion, if you want to talk about what has been probably one of the better fighting games this generation.
MKX.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yes.
Hands down. Hands down. NetherRealm knows exactly what they're doing. And then Injustice 2 is going to be the same thing. Watch.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I wasn't a fan of what I saw at E3, but yeah, Injustice will be great. It'd definitely be better than Street Fighter. Maybe. But
I just feel like you're going to get a better package with it. And NetherRealm knows with what they did with MK9, especially, and then moving into MKX, they just know how to make a better packaged game for everybody because they have a competitive scene for that game. But like, look at all that other content you get alongside all just the competitive fighting itself, the versus modes and the online modes. It just feels like a much more well put together and well organized game than what they did with Street Fighter. I felt it was the worst decision to release Street Fighter 5 the way that it was and then say like, oh, don't worry, like 7 months from now, later, you're going to get more content and stuff. It just was not a way to market that game or just to have that game just come out when it was released. So NetherRealm is the better developer in my opinion right now at this point.
Well, yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, whenever the Street Fighter team talks about, well, for a story, we're going to do more what Mortal Kombat is doing with their story, then that's how you know Mortal Kombat, obviously. They got their stuff a little bit more better together, better organized. So with that said, any final thoughts on this topic before we move on to the next?
You better be worried about whatever other fighting game that Capcom decides to release. Because remember, there was Ono for a time, and he even talked about this during the time when he was promoting Street Fighter 5. He talked a little bit about Darkstalkers, and everybody was saying like they wanted something like that. Now, I definitely could foresee also, because SNK is back in the game with King of Fighters, I could definitely foresee in the future us getting another crossover game, CVS 3, at one point. Because the fighting game fans or just people that are into that, that whole environment, that whole ecosystem, they love crossover games like that. I mean, Street Fighter Cross Tekken wasn't the best crossover game. And again, that's just another example of mismanaging and misrepresenting the product as it was. And again, everything else involving Namco and whatever, Tekken Cross Street Fighter not coming out, that's a whole nother discussion. But I could definitely foresee Capcom, after Street Fighter 5 doing other stuff like that before Street Fighter 6.
Well, I would hate to show my age, even though people who are watching this video can see I have gray hairs. I enjoyed the last Darkstalkers game, so I have no faith that Capcom would make a great, another great game in that series. And for that matter, any game they work on, I always have to question. Resident Evil 7 looks great. Do I think that that's going to turn out to be fantastic? I have no idea. But I guess we'll find out next year. And in terms of the fighting games, I just have to hope they learn their lesson with how they handled this game, and like to hope that the next game will be better. But we'll see. I mean, I just think that whoever made that decision said we're going to release this game at full price. Yeah, we don't have the story mode, but that's all right. They could just wait for the story mode. That person needs to get slapped upside the head. But you know, I'm not going to do it personally because I'm not a violent person. I just talk big, and I ain't trying to get sued.
The only reason why that happened, and it's been documented, or at least, you know, that's what a lot of people have been saying, is because they wanted to make it in time for the pro circuit for Evo, right before Evo.
Yeah.
And that was the worst decision because they were catering to the tournament players that were like the popular tournaments. Remember the whole thing with Daigo and that other rapper dude when they did that matchup and stuff? That was
Lupe.
the type of marketing they were looking. Yeah, Lupe Fiasco. When they were doing that type of thing, that was the type of stuff that they were catering to. And their original idea was to show that anybody could be a tournament level player. But the problem is there are a lot of people out there that don't want to be a tournament level player. They just want to play the game and just enjoy the content from it. And I feel like they just totally ignored that whole demographic. And that's why Street Fighter V is one of the worst selling Street Fighters to this day and age compared to Street Fighter 4 over time. At least that's what I've seen. Again, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me and stuff, but a lot of people consider Street Fighter V a flop.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I do know we probably having some fans that are watching now that love the game, and you know, hey, it's all good. You know, there's certain things about it that you can enjoy, and no doubt about it. But you have to be honest and say, you know, what they released in the beginning versus what they release now, what they have now with the content. You know, all of that content should have been in there at launch. Ain't no doubt about that, because it definitely felt bare bones. But again, I didn't buy the game at launch, so I can't say that. I obviously have a different perspective than how you guys feel, but I do know Tony Polanco, who, you know, on the Throwdown, he had a lot of negative things to say about that as well. So I feel you guys' pain, but Capcom, I would not trust Capcom to continue to, you know, I mean, you always have to be cautious about what they do these days. So we'll see what happens about the future of this franchise, Resident Evil 7 and all the other games. We just have to see how it turns out. But again, any final thoughts before we move on to the next topic? I'm
converting to Tekken.
All right. Yeah, so make sure you guys get in all your uppercuts and punches and stuff. You know, so make sure you guys are good before we move on.
Wait, was Max gonna say something?
I was just going to say, does anyone know how many people are playing it right now online? Like, is this a No Man's Sky situation where everyone...
No, there's people playing it. There's people playing it. Like, but again, it's a lot of the people that are playing and defending the game are people that are active in that tournament scene like that.
Okay, interesting.
It's not like how Street Fighter 4 was, where Street Fighter 4 had a lot more people playing it for very different reasons.
For a very long time.
Now, Max, that was a low blow, so you may have to sit out a couple of rounds after that. He took a low blow with No Man's Sky, you know.
I'm bringing that back.
That's cold.
Yeah, well, that's all right. That's okay. Somebody's still playing these games, and you know, I hope they're having fun. But yeah, I won't be playing either games. Too many other games to play instead of that. So, but we'll go ahead. We'll move on. Well, I think we beat up Street Fighter V enough. So let's move on to the next topic. All right, so we have to preference this topic as, you know, this is an example of a website taking a quote and then sensationalizing it and pushing it way out of boundaries to generate some heat. So let's talk about it. Michael Pachter recently had a conversation. This was an interview that was conducted online with another website. I don't have the website in front of me at the moment. All I know is that I did see the website as a quote that everybody has been talking about. But basically, they had him talk about an analogy of, you know, talking about the PlayStation 4 Pro and, you know, how, you know, it'll be different from PC. And Michael Pachter stated that, well, you know, PC gamers will not convert to the PlayStation 4 Pro because they are like racists, meaning that they only like to associate with their kind, pretty much the people who also like PC. They have a bit of an arrogance to them, whereas they think PC is the best, and therefore there's no comparisons. There's no comparison to whether it's a PlayStation 4 Pro or an Xbox Scorpio. And it's kind of silly to think that a person that is on PC would convert to PlayStation 4 Pro because of getting tired of the PC gamer lifestyle. Now, I know that quote came in particular from what was said weeks ago, you know, from Sony, when I know we had an episode we did last week where that was the topic where they pretty much House had made the statement that he feels as though PC gamers will convert to PlayStation 4 Pro because it's something a little bit different. So going off of what Michael Pachter said, do you guys agree with his analogy that PC gamers are, arrogant, or, they only associate with their kind? Or do you think that he maybe went a little bit too far too far off topic when he said that? So
I
Gary,
have the name for you. I have the name for you, by the way. It's actually with the Daily Star. It was an actual audio interview. That also got transcripted.
Yeah. Okay. So, because I know he's already came out and said that he obviously did not mean it in that context, but obviously a lot of people, it wasn't too happy about what he said. So, how about you? Let us know what you think about it first, Mr. Lugo.
I mean, I understand what Pachter was saying. The point he was making was saying that PC gamers just don't like to branch off into other stuff. The elitist PC gamers that are out there that are ride or die PC, they love PC gaming. That's just the way that they are. So having a console saying that you're trying to convert them over to console gaming like that is nigh impossible, almost. It's what really the point he was trying to make. Maybe using the term racist, or he's saying like they are kind of like racist because of this, maybe it wasn't the best idea, because that could be misconstrued in any number of different ways like that. And that's exactly what happened, which is ironic enough. But I totally understand his point. Maybe probably saying it in a different way, might have actually, not had this type of thing kind of happen and stuff. But it's still, at the same time, I could totally understand his frustration with like how this is just kind of getting twisted and stuff, and everybody's just kind of running with it. That, oh man, Michael Pachter called PC gamers racist and stuff. Again, context is very important here. Context is God. While actual pictures, videos, and everything else are king. You understand what I mean? Like that, that meaning, in other words, don't just like read the headline when you go to a news story, whether it's the Daily Star or anywhere else, saying that Michael Pachter is calling PC gamers racist without getting the full details about it.
Oh yeah, well, we also have to acknowledge that there are a lot of people out here that are too intelligent. Also, and they will see that and think, oh well.
It was a total clickbait title. Let's just call it what it is. It was a clickbait title, really what it is. It's just that people just saw that and just immediately assumed what was going down. Like, that's why all this is going up. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, because when I saw the title, I said, oh, let's read more about this. Okay, yeah, I understand what he was saying. I didn't think it was,
And we met Michael Pachter. We met him at E3. He's not like that type of dude. Like, he's not someone to drop a thing like that so easily. But I think context is important here.
Yeah, so let's get your reaction, Max. What do you think about this news?
I agree with a lot of what Gary said. I think that this is just kind of a ridiculous news story with the way that it was misconstrued in the headlines and everything. And I was going to say, I agree that everyone should always look up their own information and come to their own conclusions instead of just listening to what someone has to say about it or just reading the headlines and acting like you just know all about it. I browse a lot of PC like subreddits and PC news and everything, even though I'm not super into PC gaming. And I get what he means, but like JJ said, racism is just a very extreme word to use to describe it. A lot of the PC gamers are actually aware of how they treat console users, and sometimes they just make jokes about it and are self-aware and aren't against them. And then there are still the people who are all PC master race, and they're annoying. But to be honest, from what I've seen, a lot of it is satire now, and there isn't that many people doing that. I think that what's his name, Michael Pachter, was over-exaggerating it a bit.
Yeah, so agreed. Now let's go to Mr. Gary Swaby. I have to ask you, Gary, are you offended? First and foremost, as a PC gamer and as a black man, just tell me, tell us what your heartfelt feelings are about this topic.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that it makes sense that this whole thing spawned from a UK tabloid newspaper, because that's what Daily Star is. So it all makes sense now. But yeah, like, as far as the quote itself and, if I'm offended or what have you, I'm not offended, because having met Michael Pachter on multiple occasions, I know the kind of dude he is. He's a nice guy. Like, he wouldn't, openly try and say something that crazy like that. So I do feel like his words were just really taken out of context. But at the same time, I think it might have been a poor choice of words somewhat, Like I think he should have tried to use a different analogy or just been more precise in what he was actually trying to say. He definitely shouldn't have used, that particular term at all, because it's just so easy for people to misinterpret what you actually mean when you use the word racist and apply it to something. Like, it's too much controversy that will spawn from that. So I definitely feel like it was a poor choice of words. But, am I offended by what he actually said? No, because I do see, what Max and JJ was saying, when you go to the subreddits and you see a lot of PC people online, they are very arrogant about, their build, their PC build, and the games they get to experience. And when they're always bashing consoles, they act like people who play on consoles are peasants, and that sort of thing. And hell, I'm one of them, to be honest. Like, I'll troll console people like repeatedly on social media. Like, I just find it fun. But I do see that some PC people do take things too far, and there's a line that you just don't need to cross sometimes, and you don't need to constantly pound into people that PC is the better platform and that everybody should be on PC, and if you're not on PC, then you don't matter because you have insignificant technology or what have you. I definitely feel like there is some of that arrogance within the PC master race community, but me being a PC gamer, I see all the benefits that PC provides, and I just I enjoy that platform more than a console. That's just the way I am personally. But I understand where Pachter was coming from, though. But yeah, he just should have explained it better, I think.
I just listened to the audio just now because I was just telling us in the chat that I actually went to the Daily Star and listened to the audio. I think Gary hit it right on the nail. It's just a poor choice of words, because when you listen to it, it's very short because the Daily Star was getting a lot of heat from it. And I think Pachter said, he made a statement like, yo, like, why did these guys do that in all the interviews that I've done? This is like really irresponsible stuff. But when you listen to it, it was just like Pachter was just trying to make a point. It's just like, I don't think maybe he should have made that type of point. He should have just said that they're just sometimes very hardcore PC guys tend to be a little bit elitist, and they just don't want to branch off like that. Like, if he would have said they just don't have an open mind enough to get out of the PC environment to branch off and look at other stuff, it would have been a totally different story. Again, listening to it now in its context and stuff. And he did make the comment about the PC gamers being arrogant twits. He did say that. It's actually in the audio and stuff. Again, context is king and stuff. It was just a poor choice of words. It's really stupid of it at its core, because when somebody makes a post like this, and granted the audio included and such, it gets an insightful reaction from all the PC gamers that are out there. The people that go and listen to this stuff or check out this stuff on forums and such, they're going to have those real extreme reactions to this type of thing.
Yeah, this is absolutely true. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you all have already said about, obviously, this was a poor choice of words and not a literal meaning, because I had felt that when I actually read the information, that I already knew what this guy was trying to say, and I thought that the arrogant part about the actual thing was what he was trying to say. But of course, the racist term that was beforehand, and that's what everybody looked at. They didn't bother looking at what he said after that. They said, "Oh, racist, right? Okay." So then they took that and ran with it. With that said, though, I will say this. I will tell you right now, I'm not yet a PC gamer. And, I eventually do plan to get into PC gaming more, but I will say this. What the whole comment about some of them being arrogant, yeah, there is some truth to that. But I would have thought that a lot of those people would have been humbled so far this generation, because a lot of games that have come out on PC have not worked properly. Batman Arkham Knight, for example, as perhaps that rings any bells. I know Mortal Kombat X had launch issues as well, and we've already addressed and talked about Street Fighter V having problems. So I think that they definitely should be somewhat known to the fact that even though everything is better on PC, doesn't mean that the games are always going to work perfect at launch, or they're going to have issues. And same thing goes for consoles as well. So, I mean, I really don't think that there is anything thing that you can say that is perfect, because there's going to be issues no matter what in some cases. But for the most part, you know, I think a lot of those people should be humbled to understand that, well, yeah, not everything will work properly as expected. You know, maybe there's some launch issues and then it works perfectly afterwards. But just have the courtesy to know, well, sometimes this happens on PCs as well. It's not like there's no such thing as there ever being problems on PC. That happens too. So they need to keep.
Well, I mean, because I'm very, very humble, but I just need to say that, Richard, you need to join the PC Master Race. It's about time.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure. Hey,
Wow.
Listen, I'm pretty sure a lot of people want me to join. So we'll see. I mean, I haven't said that I won't, but at the same time, I know that I prefer consoles, so I still intend to play on consoles. You know, we'll see what happens though. It's a matter of time. But with that said, do you guys have any other things you want to say on this particular topic?
Yeah, I had a question actually, because shouts to the GMG podcast guys. I listened to that podcast, but they mentioned, and I've seen other people say this as well, they compared this statement from Michael Pachter to Hip Hop Gamer when he said that you know, people who are hating on the Order 1886 are like racists. But do you see any comparison in that, and do you think it's any way similar? Like,
no, whatsoever. Those are two totally different things, and I think that's a non-comparison, because I think they're both, the only comparison you could draw between them is a poor choice of words between them like that. But at least the point that Michael Pachter was trying to make was that he was trying to make more of a concise point about the arrogance of like how some PC gamers that are elitist or that hardcore within it would view console gaming like that. The one that Gerard or Hip Hop Gamer was trying to do, he was saying that people that are hating on the Order 1886 is that their animosity towards it is like racism. I don't think that's a fair point to make.
I like to make a quick comment about that. I agree with what you just said. Yeah, it definitely in no way is a comparison, except for the poor choice of words, as you stated. But I will say this. The fact that, you know, I respect Hip Hop Gamer, but the fact that game was even mentioned in the same term of racist, I don't think the game is worthy of that, of even talking about it in that context. I mean, the game was good. It was a decent game. Some will say it's too short, whatever. But I don't think you want to throw that much attention on it to say, oh yeah, this game, people should be talking about it. They're racist and stuff like that. I don't think it's worthy of having that much of a large conversation about the game. Because the truth be told, if you do have a massive conversation about the game that takes a long amount of time, it's probably going to be longer than the actual game was. So I don't see what, you know, but I understand, you know, two different conversations, two different contexts, both poor choice of words. So that's what I was going to say. Was somebody else about to make a statement?
I just want to say, like, shouts to Hip Hop Gamer. You know, I definitely fucks with him heavy. But I just want to say the Order 1886, like, that game was garbage, man. Like, it was, the game was trash, but the visuals were, you know, amazing. They did a great job with the visuals, but the game itself was garbage, in my opinion. It's like shit covered in salad dressing. Like,
oh man, man, you really think it was that horrible, Gary? Come on, I'm pretty sure.
What's with these bad comparisons lately? Everybody doing bad comparisons.
Yeah, that
stuff
sounds.
I mean, I don't think.
It sounds really good.
I mean, I don't think the game was horrible. Yeah, it was short, but you know, it's just it definitely.
I heard it was bad. I heard it was bad because I didn't get to play it yet.
Well, I mean, you could make time to play it in a day. It'll take about a couple hours to finish it. So I mean, you could
probably.
I mean, I don't think the game.
Are those hours even fun though?
So, excuse me, what did you say?
I said, is that even like a good few hours, or is it just all terrible?
I mean, it's pretty much a very cinematic experience. So, you know, there's some gameplay, there's some cinematic cutscenes here or there. I know we had one person that used to visit the website that really trashed the game before they even played it, just by looking at it. I mean, I don't think the game is. There's a lot more games I could say that are absolute garbage, trash. I don't think this game is horrible to that degree. But I mean, it's okay. But again, everybody has their own opinion, so I respect their opinion. But yeah, getting back to what we actually brought this whole conversation with. Yeah, the conversation that topic is a completely different topic from what was discussed with Michael Pachter. And again, it's just a poor choice of words in both cases, and nothing more, nothing less. I don't think you actually can compare both games. But what was you gonna say, Gary?
I just want to make it clear that, you know, we respect Hip Hop Gamer, and I officially want to start a campaign to get Hip Hop Gamer on episode 200 of the Co-op podcast.
Well, I don't think a campaign needs to be started. He may be interested in that opportunity. But obviously,
just invite him on. We don't need no campaign. It'd be like, yo, son, come here, come hang out with us, come talk games, and there you go.
That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. So we'll definitely look into that. But you know, yeah, poor choice of words with the racist things. But you know, hopefully people don't take it too far out of context. They need to, you know, just understand where people are coming from. But any final comments on this topic before we move on to the next one?
Nah, not really.
All right, sounds good. So the next topic, this is a topic that Gary, I know he could not wait to talk about. We actually got hit up by one of our fans, Wesley. Shout out to you, Wesley, for providing us this information, because they wanted to know what our opinion was on it. But you know, as everybody knows, this week there was a lot of controversy over the Oculus boss, you know, Palmer Luckey. News came out that he actually funded a pro Donal Trump Meme site called Nimble America. Okay, so you know, when this news came out, obviously a lot of people was, you know, they were very thrown off. You know, I guess they lost a little bit of some support, which we'll get into. But I would just like to say that he did provide an update on his Facebook, and the statement is the following: I'm deeply sorry for my actions. I'm deeply sorry that my actions are negatively impacting the perception of Oculus and its partners. The recent news stories about me do not accurately represent my views. Here's more background. I contributed $10,000 to Nimble America because I thought the organization had fresh ideas on how to communicate with young voters through the use of several billboards. I am a libertarian who has publicly supported Ron Paul and Gary Johnson in the past, and I plan for voting for Gary in the election as well. Okay, so, and then he went on to say that he is sorry for that if his actions have caused any problems. So, you know, that updated statement provides more context to let people know that obviously, I guess he supported something without fully knowing what the intentions are of it in relation to the
I got an update for you on that.
All right,
Yes.
well, go ahead. What's the update?
The outlet that reported on that, right, that talked about that stuff and whatnot, it was a reporter that interviewed him multiple times in relation to all this stuff in where he was actually leaving the donations and such, has him on record, both text-wise and I think also in some interviews, saying that that he was actually in the know about actually what he was doing and stuff. As far as what is it? He went under the name Nimble something or Nimble Millionaire or something like that on the actual forum and stuff, which basically shows like he knew exactly what he was doing. Like he knows exactly like what was going down and stuff. Like it's out there. Again, I apologize for not having the exact quotes and stuff in front of me, but there was like pictures, text, and like emails exchanged that were shown to everybody. So it kind of blew his statement out the water.
Well, that statement he made was on his Facebook, so that definitely, I mean, that's interesting. We probably need to see. When you get that source,
I'm gonna get you links right now. Hold on.
Yeah. When you get that source, we need to see that source. But okay, let me just get a quick thought of what you guys think. How about you go now? We know, Max, I believe that you have a bit of a political background. Why don't you let us know what you think about this particular move by Mr. Luckey?
To be honest, I think that he should have just looked into what he was doing more, or he's straight up lying and was just doing this intentionally. And now that he got caught, he's just trying to cover his own ass. I actually just don't really think he's sorry about it. I think that he's possibly a Trump supporter, but is just hiding it, trying to cover it up because he thinks it'll look bad. But I really don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say on this because I wasn't super updated on it, and I'm still not entirely sure what he was doing about all this, but I don't know. I think it's just a lot of lies and shade thrown.
Yes. Okay, Gary. How about you give us your thoughts? Now, I know we're supposed to vote for you, but you need to convince us why we need to vote for you. So just give us the nitty gritty on what this guy did.
Yeah, definitely vote for Gary. But now I don't even want to say that because, like, to be real, I'm not in America, so I don't understand, all of the politics and stuff. My question that I was gonna ask to you guys is like, are there actually a lot of Trump supporters out there? And also, if you do make public that you're a Trump supporter, is that usually seen as like a bad thing, or like are you usually shunned because you're a Trump supporter and
I can
stuff?
answer that.
Because my like
Yeah,
because
yes, both of those.
where I'm coming from is like, with politics, everyone has their own beliefs, their own views, and they support who they like to support. So, I thought that was a common thing. Like, I thought there was a lot of Trump supporters out there, like, openly. So I'm just wondering, like, where exactly all the chaos over this situation is coming from.
Okay, do you want to answer that? Because I got a clear cut that ties into everything.
Go ahead.
Okay, so
Yeah, go ahead.
So a few things. Number one, I actually got the links I put it in the chat for us so you guys could see it exactly like what I was saying before about Palmer Luckey. The thing about it, Gary, and the reason why, it's so hostile is like the better word right now for it, is because in this election, without getting too crazy political and stuff, everybody is very divided and polarized on both of the candidates, specifically Trump, because Trump, the way that he's presented himself and the statements he's made has been kind of toxic, if not really toxic to a lot of people, and almost outlandish in a political sense, where also some of the stuff that he said, like any other candidate that wasn't such a mastermind of like perception in the media and actually using bad publicity to their advantage, would have been done. They would have been gone and buried and forgotten by any other standard like this. But for whatever reason, Trump keeps doing the things that he's doing, and he still keeps remaining relevant. And it has to do with not only, again, his ability to use bad publicity to his advantage, but also a lot of pocket Trump supporters or quiet Trump supporters that are out there that have similar views to him that are just not saying anything. And, there are people that are coming out and being very supportive and stuff. And you see that in the news, some people being very kind of like, outspoken, being very quote unquote violent or very aggressive in how they are. Again, everybody in the country right now, when it comes to looking at the political space, has been very, very tense in one way or another. It is true that we have the standards here in the United States where we could support whoever we want, and we're free to kind of like go one way or the other. We're able to vote for whoever else like that. But one of the things that nobody really took into account is the kind of emotion or the feelings that you get, and the kind of like, I guess you could say, peer pressure for going one way or another in relation to everything else. So with Palmer Luckey, in this case, a lot of people are tying a lot of his views or like a lot of the stuff that he's saying when it comes to like Trump and stuff, in relation to the Oculus, and why a couple people are dropping Oculus, because of this stuff coming out and whatnot, is because they've been trying to tie it to a lot of his relationship stuff with another person. I forgot her name at the moment, but she's like an avid open Trump supporter, a Gamergate supporter, and like all this other stuff that's been like very pro-Trump or women in Trump type of thing. So they've been trying to connect the dots and stuff. So it's kind of, it's a lot of this weird he said, she said stuff, and a lot of this weird stuff that's coming to light now that people are asking questions about and investigating, that's making it look so bad, not just for him and for Oculus and such, but just, the discussion as a whole.
What was Max going to say? Because I know Max was going to say something, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say pretty quickly, I know a lot of my age group especially is very, very anti-Trump. Mostly college kids, early 20s. And I see wherever anyone mentions anything positive about him on social media or in public or anything, they're just shunned and berated. And it really brings out, like someone was saying in the YouTube chat, it just brings out the worst in people and a side you don't really want to see from people. That just seems to be happening a lot, especially in the city of Chicago, where I'm from.
Okay.
I agree. Down south here is the same thing. It's down south.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Trump supporters in the south, especially towards the southern and southwestern states and such. I know here in Florida, like in South Florida, there was a couple spots in Miami or like a few other spots around the area where there was Trump rallies. And like, there was people like, again, getting together in groups and doing stuff like that. And it's almost always tense because usually people think one thing or another, especially if you're within the vicinity of that. And that's why this election is such a tense, such a toxic type of hostile thing, because automatically there's a lot of assumptions that go around, especially if you're even just around in the area. I had a friend of mine in New York, okay, that's a YouTuber that actually went to a Trump rally, and he doesn't support Trump whatsoever. He's just curious to kind of get more informed and stuff. And like, again, he was getting berated with a lot of like vitriol like stuff thrown his way, and he doesn't even support Trump. You know, just being around that stuff makes people really angry.
Yep. Yeah, if you walk around like wearing a Trump shirt or anything like that in the city, you will get berated, and it's not fun. You could possibly even get the shit beat out of you.
Oh, well, I didn't know it was
well, I don't know it's that
I
bad.
thought,
I don't think it's that bad.
I thought
it can be if you're in certain areas here.
Yeah, I imagine so. Like in certain areas, it's probably like that. But I didn't actually know it was like that bad. I thought there was a lot of like low key Trump supporters around. But as far as my actual opinion on what went down with Oculus, I actually had a discussion about this with Wesley, who brought it to my attention a few days back. And my thoughts on it was going to be like, I didn't think it would affect a lot of Oculus business initially until I found out, some things later on. But I thought, the most that would possibly happen is perhaps the guy steps down if the heat gets too much. And but I didn't think it would actually affect any Oculus related business. And, Wesley was also talking about the possibility of maybe Microsoft distancing themselves from Oculus because, they've been kind of championing Oculus because, of course, they want to work with them when the Scorpio comes out and everything.
I have a statement.
But do you guys think it will affect business on that level? Because these guys are still backed by Facebook. Like, Facebook owns them and stuff. So, like, how much of an effect do you think it will have? I mean, we've seen one company separate themselves.
Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Well, hold on a second. Let me interject for a second because I definitely have a response to that. But I also want to address what you said when you asked that question about yes to both of those questions. There are a lot of people that don't necessarily like Trump. However, here in the South, where I'm at in Georgia, some people still support him. Obviously, this is a Republican state. I'm not going to get into any really heavy politics, but I personally do not really like either candidate that's running. Because they both have a lot of things about them that are rather controversial. But definitely I have seen a lot of people react negatively to Trump in particular. So, but yet those people are still voting for him, anyway, or have already said they're going to vote for him. So I don't really know what I feel like people who are saying that they don't support Trump, but some are still going to vote anyway. I mean, that's still going to lead to the same result. But I mean, we have to see how that goes. Obviously, there's a debate that everybody's talking about that's going down tomorrow night. And that debate is going to be interesting for many reasons because everybody's going to get to see what the defense is on both sides. So we'll have to see how that turns out. But to answer your original question, a lot of people are not really too high on Trump. And that does carry some negative connotations. But then again, there are some where it still won't. To get to the point, what you said about what Wesley was saying with Microsoft distancing themselves, I think at this point, Microsoft, they've tried to correct some things with the Xbox One S. They've tried to repair their image over the last, ever since Phil Spencer walked into office. There's still things that happen that no matter what, even though he is trying to, restore order in Microsoft, or the fact that they have more games coming out every year, it's no matter what, there's going to be some negative backlash regardless, because they still have the people who still haven't forgiven how they launched the original Xbox One. So I feel like, will they distance themselves from the Oculus? I don't entirely think they will, because, they already had mentioned that they are interested in VR. I mean, if they do not decide to have the Oculus work with Scorpio, it could be something where they have, they have Project HoloLens as well. I mean, we don't really know how any of that stuff is going to turn out. But what I did want to say is this, I don't necessarily think that they would get heat from what's going on with Oculus, whether or not the Trump stuff is all accurate information. I don't think they would get heat from that. What they will get heat from is if they do not deliver because they made a couple of statements this week talking about, oh yes, the Xbox Scorpio is going to be 4K natively. So if they don't reach that goal of it being 4K natively, obviously they didn't give any other details, but if they don't reach that goal when the system drops next year, that's what they're going to get the heat from, because people will be like, well, they said it was going to do this, and they lied about that. So, I mean, I think that's what this is, the main thing about that question that you asked. I don't think that they will get heat from, if they do decide to distance themselves from Oculus, they're going to get heat if they don't deliver what they told people that they already are going to deliver. And they keep saying over and over again, it's going to be 4K natively. We are very confident in what we're working on. So that's why I said, you know, they would shoot their own selves in the foot if they don't deliver on any of that. That's just my personal opinion on the matter. But I mean, we will see. I give them a benefit of the doubt because I think that it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. But yes, now you guys can share your thoughts on the same question about whether or not you think that partnership would hurt them, the Oculus partnership.
Anyone? Well, you going, JJ?
No, I was just gonna say, and honest to God, not really. I don't think so. I think this is much more specifically unique and focused on Oculus itself, really on the CEO like that. I don't think it's really going to inadvertently affect, you know, Microsoft in any sort of way, to be honest with you. I'd be surprised if they do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, like, Oculus is backed by Facebook, and they have a lot of power. Like, Facebook has a lot of power with, you know, as a company. And I don't see Microsoft severing ties with, you know, Oculus and stuff just because of what's happened. I think there's ways that they can just, you know, cover this up and put it behind them without it affecting too much business. There was that case of, you know, Super Hype Cube or whatever they're called. They canceled their support for Oculus. And there was that developer guy who said, you know, he wasn't going to put his game on there or something of that nature. But I don't think we'll see anything more widespread than that, really, in terms of people distancing themselves.
I also think a good way to ensure a positive reception around it is to have killer apps for it that only the Oculus can do. If they actually give people a reason to buy an Oculus, they'll be sure to look over this small little thing
that
as well.
That right there, what you just said, that is the main thing to all of this VR technology. You know, it has to have games that will initially sell people on the device. Same thing with PlayStation VR. Because if it doesn't have the library of games, then, and I mean quality games. You know, I know there's going to be some little games where it's going to be like a demo or something, but I mean like quality type titles on the system to sell it. I think that's going to make the difference. But no, any final thoughts on this topic before we move on to the next one?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good too.
Yeah, so as I said, you know, we didn't want to get on those soapboxes talking about politics, because this ain't a politics show. But we'll see how everything turns out. I mean, 2016 has not been a good year, so I would not be surprised if whoever wins is probably going to be bad either way, but I don't know. Don't listen to me, because I may be, you know, may not be positive in everything that I say. But we're going to move on to the next topic. All right, Gary, you have to elaborate on this topic because this is something you've been wanting to discuss. Yeah. Obviously, the title, you know, a lot of people look at a title and they look at the title without listening to the podcast. So we're going to see if people actually listen to the discussion we're about to have, because it's going to be a very interesting one. So obviously, let's go ahead and just to give you a proper introduction before Gary jumps into it. The Nintendo NX, a lot of people are wondering when are we going to get news about the NX? There's been a lot of people coming out saying that the NX is an excellent system. I know the Ubisoft CEO has said in a recent statement that it's a fantastic system. You know, a lot of people have said it's a hybrid. But obviously, Nintendo has still not given us any information about the system. We haven't been no Nintendo Directs, no other information about it. So Gary wanted to pose a question, because there's so much people want to know about the system, but they don't know about it. And then we do know a lot about PlayStation 4 Pro. We know a little bit about the Scorpio, but not enough. But Gary wanted to pose the question, is it possible for the Nintendo NX to outsell both the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox Scorpio? So, Gary, dive into this topic further for us.
Yep. Now, a lot of people might think, they might see the title and everything and the discussion, and they might think that's a long shot. But the purpose of this discussion is just, it's just to invoke, different levels of thoughts and views, and because we're all gamers at the end of the day. So it's just, intended to be a fun gamer discussion. Now, hear me out, because last generation, we had the PlayStation 3, we had the Xbox 360, and we had the Wii. Now, the Wii was the least powered system out of those three, and it sold like bucket loads. Like they made a lot of money off of that system. So, this question comes from that, because although Nintendo might not be in the best situation at the moment with, the Wii U, a lot of people see that system as a flop or what have you. But, with the NX, like we're all anxious to see what it's going to be about. And, even I can't wait for that Nintendo Direct, because I really just want to see what they're bringing. But, what if this is actually going to be the system that leads the way for, this next sub generation that we're getting? Like, what if the NX is actually going to become the lead console? It can happen. I mean, it won't be as powerful. I'm pretty sure we know that already. But what if more people buy that system just because of what it can do and what it's going to deliver? We already have the Pokemon company confirming that they're going to make games on this system. So that's a big deal right there in itself. So, I mean, JJ, what do you think?
To be totally honest with you, a lot of this can't even really be talked about because we don't know what NX is. I think that
just theoretically, we don't know like all the specifics, but like,
exactly.
It's just, what if?
Well, what if, again, you could say what if just about anything. If same thing happened like what you mentioned with the Wii generation. The only reason why that console sold so well is because, unlike what Microsoft and Sony were doing at the time, Nintendo was targeting a much different demographic that they thought that would be a much more better profitable thing for them. And it ended up like really selling the console out there, but it was a flash in the pan. It wasn't something that was so consistent that carried over into the Wii U and then possibly later generations afterwards. With the NX, the reason why I still think like this is almost like a really stretch to talk about is because, again, Nintendo hasn't talked about anything involving the NX. The only reason why we have any sort of like info about the NX is from a lot of leaks and a lot of vague statements done by a lot of developers that are third party that have been talking about it, because nobody first party at Nintendo has really kind of openly talked about in great detail about the NX itself, other than a few press releases and maybe like a statement or two from Kirishima himself. The only other thing that I could kind of like, use as a springboard was one of the things that, Rich, you forgot to mention. There was a Foxconn leak about the NX because there was a bunch of stuff that came out where it was based off of a drawing from a Foxconn employee and someone that was actually talking about some of the tech stuff specifics about the NX itself. It involved some of the stuff saying where it was a lot less powerful than the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. As far as the user interface, it was really intuitive. It was really easy to use. That's also kind of, matching up to some of the stuff that the Ubisoft guy said at one point. Like, there's little things here and there. I think the idea of blending portable and home console gaming is an interesting idea, and I'm curious to see how that takes off with the mainstream. Because if you think about it, the mainstream person that isn't involved with gaming, that isn't involved in this same type of ecosystem like what we are, we're engrossed in gaming news practically all the time. But that random person that just wants to buy something as a Christmas present, maybe for their kids or maybe for themselves, like that, just to have as like, their getaway from whatever work that they're doing. The idea of having a console that's both a home console and a portable console to take with you is very appealing. That sounds like a cool idea that'll kind of work with making things a little bit easier for some people out there, especially if they're not a hardcore gamer like what we are. But overall, I still think we need to wait to have these types of discussions. I feel like very soon we're going to get that Nintendo Direct. I feel like it's coming very soon, but the problem is I don't think that Nintendo's going to make that March date, what they've been talking about for a long time, or what they said a while back in that press release when they first started talking about the Nintendo NX. I feel like they're cutting it very close because they only have like a couple more months out, because we're in September now. We got October, November, December, January, February, and then March, which is about less than 6 months and change here and there. So maybe once we get that Nintendo Direct sometime this holiday season, possibly, I'm hoping. I still say maybe October, November is when we actually get it. But whenever Nintendo decides to talk about NX, that's when we'll be able to decide and actually really get a better idea of what this system is like and how it's going to match up to the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox Scorpio.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, obviously we don't know all the specifics, but I really think they do have a shot though, because like, you know, Wesley in the chat right now, he's saying the Wii sold because it was simply a gimmick, but they can present this new thing, this NX, as a gimmick too. They could easily do it. Like they can.
I disagree with that
on the features.
I honestly disagree with that. It was a gimmick thing that was involved with the Wii itself and why it sold so well. But the real reason why it sold so well is because of the marketing that was appealing towards the non-gamer. That's why they did it. It was, yes, a gimmick of motion controls. Yes, that is a gimmick in and of itself. It was different than the traditional controller setup that we've all been used to having for many years. But that's what made that console successful. It was appealing to grandma and grandpa. That's what it was really appealing to.
Yeah, and you see how big a phenomenon Pokemon is, and they're already saying that they're going to make Pokemon games on the NX, and I think that's a big deal. So go ahead,
exactly,
Rich.
and we can't forget about the kids.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I don't think you can really say that it's going to be a gangbuster success over those other consoles just simply on that. I think obviously that's going to contribute to it. It's really going to come down to obviously software. Software is going to be the biggest thing. How easy and if it's a better overall design system or better platform than the Wii and the Wii U was afterwards. I think, you know, especially for us hardcore gamers or people that are engrossed in this stuff a lot, that's really going to be a deciding factor for us. But it's always going to come down to the software. It's always going to come down to those Nintendo exclusives that you know and love, how much of a great experience they're going to offer. Are they going to be Super Mario Galaxy level of quality type of stuff? Are we going to get those other Nintendo franchises or IPs that we haven't seen on the Wii U platform, haven't seen on the Wii or since the Wii era? Like that, are we going to get that type of stuff? That's what's really going to judge this Nintendo platform, whether it's a success or a failure.
Mm-hmm. I can safely say that I know that Pokemon would be a big thing.
I like to make a statement, and this may be a bit of a controversial statement, but I don't think so. Based off of the information we know so far, of what little information we do have, I actually would agree with JJ, whereas there's really no determining anything yet. Now, I do respectfully know that the Pokemon game would be a success if it does come to NX, as they confirmed. But my thing is this: it really is about the software lineup, because let's take, for example, the Legend of Zelda game. This is a game that is also coming to Wii U, so it's not exclusive to the NX from what we know so far. That's why I don't think anyone would just buy an NX outright, unless, of course, the NX offers something special in regards to how you play the game, or there has to be some type of difference. But again, we don't know any of that yet because they haven't said anything about the system yet. So I think it's going to come down to the software. But my guess is that when Zelda is going to come out, if it's coming out on Wii U, what is going to stop somebody from just saying, well, let me just get the game on Wii U? I'm not really sold on the NX yet. I haven't seen what other games they're releasing yet. So that's why I don't think it would be a top-selling console, for that very reason. It's all about the lineup. You have to see how the lineup goes first.
There's a good point in there bouncing off of that I want to make. It's that, number one, while Pokemon is such a huge series, again, it's really associated with the portable gaming market, and Nintendo's portable, avenue or portable outlet, which is with the Game Boy Advance, the DS, the 3DS, and stuff like that. Keep in mind, the 3DS is still going to be around when NX is still around, and we're still going to get Pokemon games on the 3DS. Now, obviously, and also kind of in relation to what Rich was talking about with the Breath of the Wild, the new Zelda game, Nintendo's still going to treat that like an NX game, even though it's going to be on the Wii U. I think they're going to push it hard because they want to sell the new hardware, obviously, and stuff. But the NX is still going to be around with these other pieces of hardware like that. So for Nintendo gamers or people that already own a 3DS or people that already associate a series with one platform or another, I don't think that they're just going to drop the $400 or however much the Nintendo NX is going to cost, because we don't know at this point. We don't even know the contents of the hardware itself, so we can't even make a good estimate on what that's going to be like, even based down to like the chips or the guts inside of that platform, but also more so in going back to the Pokemon game, I still feel like a lot of gamers right now, they don't need to go out and get an NX to get a Pokemon game. We're getting Pokemon Sun and Moon just before the NX comes out. And even then, when a Pokemon game comes out much later on, if it's not next year or the following year after that, I'm pretty sure they're still going to acknowledge the 3DS owners that have Pokemon or play Pokemon on the Nintendo 3DS. I mean, if they were smart, and if Nintendo was really smart, and they're probably thinking about this already, they would try to find some way to implement Pokemon Go with all the casual people that don't own Nintendo products like that into the NX. That's where they're going to make the money, to be honest with you, or at least that's where they're going to make a big impact to show people the NX to gamers that aren't necessarily the gamers that they've been sticking with them for such a long time.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Like, I think like 90% of the people who own a Wii U are going to go to the NX. Like, it's a guarantee, because the thing is with Nintendo and their ecosystem, like, they actually, as a gaming company, they have the most exclusives. Like, they have the most exclusive games, period, right now. Like, if you tally it up against Sony and Microsoft, they have the most, hands down. And all they have to do is get even a handful of, third-party companies to support the NX. And I know they failed with the Wii U because they tried to do that initially, but it didn't work out. But, I feel like they could really make a case. They can really make it attractive on the NX for these third-party companies to start releasing some of their games on the system. And, that will make their library much more valuable in comparison to, when you look at Sony and Microsoft consoles, because they'll have all the exclusives, plus they'll have, a handful of third parties, and maybe they'll even let indies do their thing as well.
I have a quick question I want to ask. Now, just as a response to what you said, let's just clarify this. No matter, I'm not going to make a guess of who is going to outsell who, but I will say this: all of the consoles will do well because new technology always sells. I mean, I know a lot of people who pre-ordered PlayStation 4 Slims. They've already pre-ordered Pros. So because it's a new technology and something that people want, they're going to get it no matter what. Now, in terms of what you said specifically about the, I mean, I think that the game, I mean, again, it comes down to the library. What you said about the third-party support, though, do we really have faith that Nintendo is going to get back like a ton of third-party support? Because I don't really see that quite yet. I mean, they have first-party lockdown. They're all focused on their own games. Yes, but we also know it takes them a while to release these games. So that is the question that they have to ask to sell me on the device, whether or not you have third-party support, because I know with Sony and Microsoft, they always got third-party support. But with Nintendo, I mean, I don't really know if I have faith that they are going to get back full third-party support. I mean, we have to see.
They have the ability to. I just think that because of the Wii and the Wii, well, not so much the Wii, but more the Wii U is what really kind of like, steered a lot of third parties away, because they didn't want to go through the trouble of developing certain games like that or make it optimal for the Wii U itself, when it was so easy to port between the PS3 and the Xbox 360 and the PS4 and the Xbox One like that. It's really the ease of use and how easy it is for them to get their games onto that platform. Because business-wise, without getting into the development and the design of the game itself, if you have to spend so much time and resources on getting one game on one platform and not as much on another, you're obviously going to make a much more easier decision like that. That's not going to put so much, strain on your business like that. That's just the way it is. That's what happened a lot with the Wii U and a lot of third-party developers. And I think also a lot of the rules at the time with the Nintendo, in relation to third-party developers like EA, Bethesda, why they were so adamant and so outspoken about developing games for that platform is because there's also a lot of rules in place to have your game on the Nintendo platform. It's been like that for many, many years. Nintendo's notorious for having stuff like that. Now, maybe with the shift in the momentum, the shift in the management up at Nintendo, to be honest with you, obviously in the wake of Satoru Iwata's passing and a lot of the stuff changing up over there, and some of the other things that Nintendo's been doing, like getting different info from various different individuals at different companies in the industry and such, maybe we'll start to see that change. And maybe that's why some third-party developers outside of Ubisoft have been talking about the NX, because maybe we're starting to see a shift in that. But to be totally honest with you, I mean, they still got a lot of work to do. They still do. Nintendo platforms have always been steered and always have been successful due to their first-party content. They've always had phenomenal first-party exclusives. That's why they have the most exclusives, and that's why their exclusive have sometimes, arguably in some cases, the best quality in the industry. Go ask anybody during the Super Nintendo Genesis era and ask them about Super Mario World. It's probably arguably one of the best exclusives on a gaming platform to date. You know, and again, you know, at least packed it with the system. Again, that's very subjective and stuff, but I'm just making a point. But overall, they still got a lot of work to do. I think that once we finally know what the system is, we can answer all these questions.
Very good point. Yeah. Any other final thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, as for the 3DS stuff, because I know 3DS was mentioned a lot too, and I feel like the NX is gonna bridge that gap between handheld and, you know, home console. So I do see like the 3DS still has a lot of steam, you know, like it's still widely used, widely supported and everything. But I do think that the NX could be the next progression, you know, from the 3DS, and we might even see a lot of the games that support 3DS beyond the NX as well. So I feel like, you know, even 3DS gamers and Wii U gamers, they're all going to upgrade to the NX.
What do you think the possibility is of Pokemon going exclusively to the NX if it is this handheld hybrid thing?
Not gonna happen.
I don't think it would be exclusive, but I think it will be a situation where it will come out on the 3DS, but it will also be on the NX too.
Exactly.
And then you might also get something like Pokemon games that are exclusive for the NX as well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Compatible with the 3DS games too. Like maybe give some benefit to having both, like Nintendo likes to do with their handhelds and home consoles.
That's another thing. We don't even know if the NX itself is going to be backwards compatible, because remember, they say they're going to cartridge-based flash memory for their games. At least that's what the rumor's been for quite a while, and it hasn't gone away, which I think it's real in that case, because a lot of people are talking about that. The other thing is that if that's the case, is it going to be backwards compatible with other 3DS games for that platform? Because if that's the case, then you have the ability to kind of offer that type of stuff. Maybe the games run better on the NX or whatnot. Or, depending on what version of the game that you get, whether it's a Pokemon game or anything else, the sort between NX and 3DS, do you get extra content or extra abilities like that by having the game on NX? Those are questions that I feel like, again, they're going to be immediately answered once Nintendo tells us what this thing is.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Yeah, well, sounds good. You know, I mean, obviously, as you guys have already said, just a conversation to consider. But yeah, we cannot really discuss everything in full detail until we know what the NX is. And of course, also until we know what the Scorpio is, because we don't know nothing about that system either. All we know is PlayStation 4 Pro is coming out in November. A lot of people are going to pick it up, because I know a lot of people who have already pre-ordered it, even though they don't have the 4K TV. So that's all I know about the Pro. But yeah, we have to wait to see how all the rest of this news pans out. But obviously, if Nintendo is supposedly going to release this stuff in March, they damn sure better be getting ready to talk about something soon, because I don't see what the point is of holding off, you know, the announcement for a long period of time. So we'll see what happens with that. Any final thoughts on this topic before we wrap up?
Yeah, real quick. I just wanted to segue into something else real quick. But did you guys hear about the Microsoft staff member who kind of took shots at the PS4 Pro? He basically said that 4 teraflops isn't enough for like full-on 4K gaming in an interview. Did you guys hear about that?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I didn't either. But I mean, Microsoft's been kind of throwing shade since the PS4 Pro was announced. Yes,
they have. You know, this started with the tweets and talking about the Xbox One S does have a Blu-ray, 4K Blu-ray driver. It started with that, and they've been talking ever since about, you know, it's not real 4K on PlayStation 4 Pro, that they have native 4K. It's something I mentioned earlier, because I heard those statements earlier in the week. It's like I said before, you know, Microsoft, you know, they can they can appear to be very confident now. The confidence is good for those that are diehard Xbox fans. They like to see Microsoft have a little bit of swagger. But what I said before, if they don't deliver on what they're saying, they're going to be in a lot of trouble with the fans, because especially those that are listening to everything they said. Yes, it's going to be native 4K, 6 teraflops. So anything that delineates from that is going to be a problem. Now, obviously, they've been careful with some stuff that they said, because they haven't revealed too much information about the system yet. So they can change some things. But you already said the most powerful console ever. You said it's going to be 6 teraflops, and you also said 4K native. Now it has to deliver on all of that, because if it doesn't, then it's going to be an issue. So it's like I said before, Microsoft, I'm all fine with them being confident in what they have and what they're working on. But if they do not deliver on what they said, a lot of people are going to really have a lot to say about them in the long run.
For sure.
Yeah, we'll have to see about that. But any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to this week's show. We're going to, of course, give our final shout out. So how about you go first, Max, if you any final shout outs you'd like to give?
Well, let's see. Thanks again, as always, for having me on the show, guys. Love being a part of it. And if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, I'm Wow I'm a Nerd, at Wow I'm a Nerd. And then I have a blog up, if you guys want to follow my blog, just to practice some writing and stuff, at wowI'mANerd.net. And then I have my Xbox gamer tag at Maximal, MAXEMOLE. If you guys want to add me on there, we could play some games together.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. How about you, Mr. Lugo? Any final words or shout outs?
Just big thanks to everybody that was in the chat watching this actual live show, everybody that's going to check out the co-op later in the week, once it's live on the site and stuff. Everybody leaving comments on all the editorials and just checking out all our stuff, checking out all our YouTube content, all our exclusive Patreon content. A big shout out to the patrons, everybody that's been hanging out with us and such, and just, again, giving us that feedback and giving us that communication to all the stuff that we put out. Definitely expect some more content going up very soon. Again, I got a review going up tomorrow, as well as other stuff for Destiny or whatnot later in the week. And don't forget also, if you guys didn't see, we actually have it now up on the site. Me and Gary did a full spoiler-free review of Luke Cage from Netflix. So definitely check that out. We got a chance to actually watch the series early. It's coming out later this month. But we actually talked about Luke Cage, and we had a lot of different stuff to say about it, both me and Gary, after watching it. So look forward to that. It's on the site now. Leave us some comments and let us know if you guys want to see more content like that. If we're able to make it happen, we'll get it done for you guys. So definitely, again, big thank you. Hopefully you guys keep checking out all the stuff we put out.
Absolutely. How about you, Gary? Final shout outs?
Yeah, I just want to shout out to all the listeners, all the people who was in the chat and everything today. Thanks for chopping it up with us. Big shout to Wesley as well, because he keeps me in the loop, man. Because throughout the week, sometimes I don't always have time to check the headlines and stuff, but a lot of times he'll hit me up and let me know what's going on. So shouts to that dude. And I definitely want to shout out all our Patreon supporters. That's M. Collins, Sean Gority, Michael Hatcher, Stephen Fearon, Mauricio Aguilar, and Himdil. Shouts to all you guys, and thanks for supporting us. We're looking at creating some more original content for you Patreon people as well. So look out for that.
Absolutely. Definitely going to give a special shout outs to the Patreon supporters. We definitely do appreciate the support. And yes, there is going to be a lot of more original content coming very soon. There's already some stuff that's in the works, so stay tuned for that. I'd like to thank everybody for checking out today's show. Feel free to let us know your thoughts on any of the topics that we discussed, because some of this stuff definitely is worthy of talking about further. So definitely looking forward to any feedback that you guys give on this particular episode. I'd like to give a shout out to Stars. Definitely wanted to take the time to thank them for allowing us to watch Power and do podcasts and talk about that show. Tonight is the season finale. Well, by the time you guys see this, the season finale will have already aired. But if you are a Power fan, definitely check out our PowerCast episode, which will be up, because yeah, man, that season finale was crazy. But I'm not going to say anything else because I don't want to get sued. And I also want to give a shout out to Netflix for allowing us to see Luke Cage early. Definitely feel free to let us know your thoughts on that particular show. And we are going to be doing more with that actually, later this week, because the show actually debuts on Netflix on September 30th. So stay tuned for that, as well as all the other stuff we're working on. So that pretty much concludes our time for this week. So take care. Hope you guys have a great week.
Wait, did you want to announce the game that won for?
Wait, hold on. What are you talking about?
Oh, never mind. Don't worry about it. That's cool. I was talking about the poll.
Well, actually, I haven't checked that poll. Why don't you let us know what actually won? Because I thought that the deadline was this past Friday, correct?
Yeah. So
all right. So yeah, you let us know, because I haven't checked it. I haven't checked it recently.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, you all voted on what game you wanted us to give away in October, and the winner. The game that you guys voted for was Mafia 3. So we will be giving away that game in October. So look out for the post, and when the post goes live, you can register your ticket into the competition. Obviously, our Patreon supporters get automatic entries. They get automatic tickets into the giveaway, and that gives them a better chance of winning. But you guys can also enter, and you can tweet and follow us for extra entries also. So definitely do that and look out for that post. And good luck to everyone.
Yeah, let me just make a quick comment and just say, hey, thank you to everybody that voted, and especially thank you to those that voted for Mafia, because I wanted Mafia to win. Obviously, I didn't mess with any of the votes, but that's great. So look forward to giving that away. I'm also actually going to be reviewing that game also next month, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, that pretty much concludes our show for this week. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Peace out.
Take it easy, guys.
See you guys.